morning. It's fantastic that you're all here and excited and interested to know about the John Monash Scholarship. As I said, my name is Anna Bailey, and I'm the manager of the scholarships program at the foundation. And with me, I have Sarah Ramantanis, our lovely marketing manager, and also Zana Greer, our admin support person. And Zana's going to look after the chat and any admin issues. Sarah's going to do the majority of the presentation for us. So I'll just introduce it and then hand over to Sarah. So let's get started. Feel free to pop questions into the chat. We'll see how we go with answering them on the hop, but otherwise we'll come back at the end and there will be plenty of time to do Q&A at the end of the session. So, of course, I wanted to start with an acknowledgement of country. The Office of the General Sir John Monash Foundation sits on Wurundjeri country, and we warmly acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered today at a variety of locations. So I'm now at home on Wurundjeri country, as are Zana and Sarah. But we would like to pay our respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and elders past, present and emerging, and to the traditional custodians of the lands wherever you are zooming in today. Okay, so just quickly, some housekeeping. If you wouldn't mind keeping your yourself muted for the session. This is the first of our two-part webinar series. The next one is on the 22nd of June. Keep your microphone muted, as I said. So just so that you know, what we'll be doing today is just a very general overview of the scholarship and a broad introduction, talking a little bit about the application process, about what we're looking for, and just some of the many benefits of being a John Monash Scholar. So it all starts with General Sir John Monash, who was a remarkable Australian. He was a war hero in the First World War. And then when he returned from the war, he was an outstanding leader and contributor to Australian society in many realms. He was he ran the State Electricity Commission in Victoria. He was an engineer. He was also an educator and was the Vice-Chancellor of University of Melbourne towards the end of his life. So John Monash's ethos was that the privilege of education carries great responsibilities, as the quote says. It's given not for individual benefit alone, but to benefit persons for the higher duties of citizenship and for roles of leadership in all fields to make Australia great. And so what I'd love you to take away from this session is this notion that the John Monash Scholarship is all about this notion of contributing to the greater good. So if you have a look at our scholars on our website, you'll see that they're all doing, in different ways and shapes and forms, they're all doing work which contributes to the betterment of society. And that is our overarching intention with this scholarship. So a little bit about the scholarship. I'm going to throw to you now, Sarah, to keep going with that.
Thanks, Anna. And thanks everyone for coming. It's really great to see so many people excited about this scholarship. And that's why we work at the foundation, because we know just how amazing it is for people across Australia. So what is it? So it's a uniquely Australian scholarship open to any discipline anywhere in the world. No age limits either for applying. We encourage applicants to select world-leading institutions that best suit their studies and desired area of impact wherever that may be. So really understanding when you do apply exactly why that specific university is the best for what you want to achieve and learn, rather than just, what uni you would like to go to. You just really have to explain exactly what that means. You will join a professional and international network of John Monash scholars and partners, and it's an incredible network of John Monash alumni that stay connected all around the world through various events, through chats and meetings, and it's just an invaluable networking opportunity as well. And you'll also receive ongoing career support and professional development through the John Monash Foundation Leadership Academy, which essentially has opportunities for John Monash scholars and alumni to engage in professional development and networking opportunities as well. So it's a really unique offering that the foundation provides. And in that way, you can continue to build your career even once you've finished your studies. Could you be a John Monash scholar? I hope majority of these people are Australian citizens, perhaps, have completed or about to complete a degree from an Australian university. So just a reminder that John Monash scholarships are postgraduate studies. Be planning to undertake postgraduate study at an overseas university. So the John Monash scholarship is just for international, it's not for Australian universities. Be able to argue the merits of your chosen course, institution, and how they are best positioned to drive progress in your chosen fields. So like I mentioned before, it's really important to understand why your university is really amazing at that thing that you want to go do, what resources, facilities, networks, opportunities that they have there, not just at the university at large, but also from a cultural and global perspective. So what does that part of the world have that you could learn from as well, because it's also about a lifestyle. You'll be living there for at least 1 year, so it's about immersing yourself in the culture and also learning from that to potentially provide solutions to Australia and beyond. So our key selection criteria are based on the qualities modelled by General Sir John Monash, which are excellence, so evidence through a university degree obtained with outstanding results, prizes, awards, publications, just to show that you've, done a lot of academic excellence within your specific field, so that if you do go to study at another institution, you meet their eligibility criteria as well. Leadership is one that we always revert back to, not just because of the values that General Sir John Monash embodies, but people being, leaders in their multidisciplinary fields. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to be captain or something. It just necessarily means that you have to show that you are leading change in your area of expertise, and making the world a better place. So citizenship, a clearly identified career pathway that identifies the ability to contribute to Australia, and a clear career trajectory that demonstrates a benefit to society. So this essentially means a well-developed case for tutoring in a university relevant to the proposed area study. So we continue to stress that, just because you can literally go anywhere in the world with the John Monash scholarship, you just have to ensure that that is the best place for you. We have a lot of scholars choose, your stock standard Ivy Leagues, but we do have scholars that go all different parts of the world because they truly believe that that is the place they need to be to achieve the most success.
I might just jump in there, Sarah. Just to add to what Sarah's said, this slide is really critical for you to think about if you're considering applying. So it's worth unpacking a couple of the points that are made. First of all, this notion of excellence, I think, is something that I don't want people here to feel intimidated by this. You don't have to get the top score in every subject in your year. You don't have to be a university medalist. You want to have pretty good scores, but it's not just for that top 0.5% of the university. It could be the marks, but it could equally be those prizes and awards or the other things that you've done through your sort of academic career. So we really want you to think about those other two aspects, as Sarah talked about the leadership. What does leadership look like for you? It's about, not just being the captain of everything, as Sarah said. It's about, you might have done some volunteering and you might have had some really great ideas about how to make some changes to the local soup kitchen or your local youth group or whatever it is. That's a form of leadership. Even just lending a helping hand to someone or a group of people in time of need, that's also a form of leadership. So again, try not to think of it in terms of this sort of black and white approach. And of course, that citizenship, the notion of your career plan, how you want to give back to Australia, and what that looks like in terms of an application that you make for the scholarship, that's really critical. And I just seem to have got stuck on this slide. Oh, there we go. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Anna. So what is the John Monash Scholarship worth? Currently, it's 75,000 Australian dollars per year for up to 3 years. So the money can be used for the institution, living expenses, insurance, or other expenses that support Australian studies. We also support with a return flight to and from Australia, support with seeking additional funding if required. So we do say that you can use it for a range of different reasons. That is because the universities that our scholars choose have different tuition fees. So some would be able to cover their tuition fees with this funding and then some. Others might need additional sources of funding if 75,000 Australian isn't enough to cover their fees. So we definitely have that conversation with you and do what we can to support you on that journey. You will also, and one of our favourite parts is become a lifelong member to the John Monash Foundation Leadership Academy, which is our professional development and networking hub, an arm of the foundation, which just keeps you in a global network for the rest of your life. And if you ever do require support or want to get involved or do things to elevate your career, the Leadership Academy is there to support that. Additional benefits. So I'm sure people will want to hear about this. So there are universities around the world that actually do have additional financial support with us due to them partnering with the foundation. So we have King's College London, which is an additional €5,000. IE University Madrid in Spain is a 30% fee waiver. Cranfield UK, full fee waiver for a master's program at all schools except the MBA. The University of Groningen, full fee waiver for PhDs. Wiesmann Institute of Science, full fee waiver, and University of Toronto, full fee waiver for PhDs. I should state that when you're thinking about the institutions with a fee waiver, you will again, like we've mentioned, have to justify as to why those are the best universities for you to be attending based off what you want to learn and achieve. We do have exclusively gifted John Monash scholarships. For example, our Roth-Siegel John Monash Harvard Scholarship chooses to support a scholar who has chosen to study specifically at Harvard. So there are a range of different avenues and partnerships that the foundation holds. And if you'd like to find out more, you can always check out our website or reach out to us as well. Application and selection process, the fun part. So online applications open every year, usually from the 1st of May and close on the 14th of May. So applications are currently open. So we do recommend, if you are thinking of applying, starting the application sooner rather than later, just so that you have more time to be thorough with it, take your time, contact your references and reread. Super important, even if you just keep the tab open and just remind yourself that you need to finish your application. You can also contact us during the time of your application if you have any queries or questions that aren't answered on our website. Once applications close, candidates selected for first round of interviews are held nationally from August to September in your relevant state or territory. Once you pass this round, you will make it to national interviews, which is held over 2 days in Sydney and Melbourne during October. From October, if you are lucky, you are selected to be a John Monash Scholar, and scholarships are awarded annually in November each year. We usually have about anywhere between 15 to 20 scholars per cohort. And as you can see the numbers here on the left, usually we get about 350 applications in the start. They're narrowed down to 100, 40, and then 10 to 20. So the John Monash Foundation Leadership Academy is something that we've touched on during this presentation. I just thought I'd walk you through it a little bit more formally. So we have an ongoing commitment to supporting John Monash scholars in taking action against the real challenges we face today. The Academy facilitates the John Monash Scholar leadership journey by creating a platform for engagement within the community across all sectors. This could potentially include a mentor and mentee program, professional development opportunities, collaborative grant funding, and more. The Academy is governed by an eminent advisory board, and our patron is the Honourable Julia Gillard AC. So there's so much to explore in the Leadership Academy, and it's continuously growing. And I cannot stress enough how valuable it's been for scholars to connect and collaborate post their studies and continue together on their career trajectory. It's just been so amazing what they can achieve, and taking their career to new heights through collaboration has been so inspiring to watch behind the scenes. Anna, is there anything that you wanted to add to the Leadership Academy?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Look, it's really what the Leadership Academy has done, and it's a fairly recent innovation at the foundation, is to add a whole new layer of not only structure but richness to the amazing network that is the John Monash Scholars. So we've always had a really solid network, but having the academy there means that there are more opportunities to meet. There are collaborative grants where established scholars that might have done the scholarship 10 years ago connect with a brand new scholar, and they will do put in for a collaborative grant and do a project. And there are professional development sessions held. So I think there's one coming up for scholars that have returned to Australia recently about, what are some of the things that you need to think about in terms of your professional networks and how you take your work forward now that you're back in Australia. So I know all these scholarships, we talk about the network and we say how amazing it is. And I can't stress enough how valuable it is to be part of that network, both when you become a scholar, but also for the rest of your life. And I would also say that all of our scholars, they love being part of the network. They feel so much part of, we almost call it a family, which sounds a little bit odd. Maybe the John Monash community is a better way to talk about it, but they are just so committed to working with this community and helping to enrich the lives of Australians through the work that they do as a network.
The online application. So what's included in this is general information, an academic summary, professional experience, leadership engagement and impact examples, personal statements, and referees. You require 3 referees. They can be of any way, shape or form. They don't necessarily have to be from an academic background. Just 3 referees that you think can speak to your excellence and your suitability for applying for the John Monash Scholarship.
Can I jump in there again, Sarah, just to sort of unpack all of that a little bit more? Those lovely neat dot points make it look really clear and straightforward. It's a pretty straightforward application, but it is very, very involved. So as Sarah said earlier on, I'd be definitely getting started earlier, because it's about the thinking that you're wanting to do around your career plan, about the impact that you want to have with your work. Those are the critical things, and it's not something that you can rush. So looking at that list, really, the academic summary, for example, is about your academic achievements. It's about your grades, professional experience. And I note there is a question in the chat, but your professional experience may not be a lot. And I saw that question. If you're a recent grad, you won't have a lot of professional experience. That's completely fine. It's completely common as well, because a lot of our scholars are recent graduates. So it's really about whatever professional experience you have. How does that support your application as a John Monash scholar? The personal statement or personal statements, that's really the critical part, is, as we've talked about, what do you think you have to offer? How do you propose to use the scholarship when you come back to Australia? So one of the big things about the scholarship is, and about the whole ethos of the foundation, is about the impact of the work for the betterment of Australian society. So the idea is that you go overseas, you do your 1, 2 or 3 years, sometimes stay on for a bit longer, many of our scholars do, but ultimately that you'll come back to Australia and you will have an impact in some way on the lives of Australians. So a couple of examples straight away spring to mind. In our current, most recent scholars, we've got one who intends to come back and improve access to health services for regional Australians. Someone else, a lawyer that's going off to do a Masters of Laws, wants to come back and work on structural reform for First Nations people. We have people working on climate change that, again, want to come back and work in climate science in Australia, and so on. So those personal statements are really important for you to start thinking about. Have chats with people, talk to your lecturers, talk to any mentors or friends, and really start to kind of flesh out what your vision is for your future plans. And of course, those 3 referees are really important. So have a chat to your referees, make sure you do have a conversation with them before you put in your application, so they know they're going to be asked to write a reference.
There was a question in the chat function that asked what information would be useful for them, for referees to know in their part. Not too dissimilar to what you're actually putting in your application. So, you know, why are you doing it? Where are you doing it? What do you hope to achieve? The basis of the referee can, you know, talk about why that would be important, and then also just talk about, you know, their time working with you and how that this could benefit, you know, your career trajectory based off things you've done, the vision you have, and just them knowing you and having worked with you. So I would just be telling them what you're talking about and what your plan is, and I'm sure that they will be able to relate and be able to explain why they think you'd be a suitable candidate to be a John Monash scholar.
Yeah, no, that's a great suggestion, Sarah. And the other thing is with your referees, I mean, it's a pretty well-known scholarship, but it's really worth just outlining, you know, what the scholarship's about. It's about impact. It's about the betterment of society. It's about your chosen path and how that can, improve things for Australians. Okay. Do you want me to jump in here, Sarah?
Yeah.
Look, I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions in the chat about the application. I'll run through some of these tips and then we'll get to the questions in a moment. But the first one sounds really basic, but please read the instructions. It doesn't always happen. So do just really, really carefully follow the instructions and check those criteria. Keep in mind those things that we talked about, the, academic excellence, academic professional excellence, your leadership capability or your leadership potential, and your chosen path and how you think that is going to impact Australia. The other thing to keep in mind is that you really, really need, as Sarah said, really need to think carefully about why you've chosen a particular institution for study. We can't stress that too much. That's a really critical part of the criteria. As we've said, get some guidance. Get someone to read your application, a disinterested third party. For typos as much as anything else, please read, reread, redraft, proofread, check all of that. We won't have any extensions to the deadline, so that's really important. Be your authentic self. So don't try to be something that you're not. The selectors are looking for you as a person. So be authentic. Draft, test, draft, repeat. Just keep working through it. It's worth the effort. It's really worth taking lots of time and effort with this. Careful selection of referees and proofreading, as I've said, all really, really critical. Okay, so I'll just finish up here and then we'll go to questions. So obviously applications are open, but there's still plenty of time for you, and they close on the 14th of July. So lots and lots of time, but don't leave it till the last minute. So we might actually, before we jump to questions, I might just share the last slide and then you can get some final information. So these are all our contact details here, all on our website. I would also encourage you, in terms of preparing your application, to really become familiar with some of the work that our scholars have done. That's going to be a great guide for you as to whether you think this is something for you. So have a look at our scholar profiles. Have a listen to our podcast. It's absolutely fantastic. We have an interview with a different scholar for each podcast, and they're absolutely wonderful. So listen to our podcast, just research as much as you can about the scholarship and about our scholars, because that will put you in the best position to be able to then speak to the criteria and to be really confident that this is the right choice for you in terms of the scholarship that you want. Finally, next webinar is on the 22nd of May. It's a Thursday. So just be aware that will be a little bit more deeper dive into the application.
22nd of June, Anna.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. Proofread. Did I say proofread a minute ago?
Yeah.
Okay, 22nd of June is our second webinar, so do join that. We will sort this slide out once we get off the Zoom. So thank you so much for that. I know it's all a lot of information, but you've got the basics there now, and we've got a lot of questions. So
might throw over to Zana, who will just read the questions, and Anna, you and I can jump in and provide some answers.
Yeah, so first one was, will this recording be available to us later? I can quickly jump in and answer that one. It will be posted on our website, and I'll send around the link to everybody following on. So long as you've registered to attend, we will send that link out to you for this recording. The next question is, would postgraduate courses starting in September, October 2023 be eligible for support?
Well, I can take that one. Unfortunately, no. So because if you think about our selection processes, we won't be awarding the scholarship until November. So what we're looking at is you need to be considering a course that starts next year, normally from mid-year onwards, although we do have someone this year who started in March, Southern Hemisphere. She's in New Zealand. So, so no is the answer there.
Thanks, Anna. From the application questions, would you be able to explain what you consider professional achievements and professional awards and how that differs from academic awards?
Yeah, I can take that one. I don't have any academic awards. I only have professional awards. So it's essentially recognition. Professional awards is recognition for anything that you've done within your career. So for an example, there's the 7 News Young Achiever Awards that a lot of young people aged 18 to 24 receive. Even if it's a certificate from your university, anything that just showcases that you've done something and achieved something in some sort of way, even a very nice handwritten letter from a senior executive that you've worked for or worked with, I would consider that a professional award. Anything that awards the work that you've done. Academic awards is, graduating with distinction, being on the dean's list, anything within specifically that university. But professional can be anything basically outside of that. So whether you're even captain of a football team, and that sort of thing, the horizons are very much open to your own interpretation.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sarah. What kind of details are you looking for in terms of career trajectory? Is it okay to have a few options in mind if the field you are thinking of is not a traditional established path?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that one. So yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about this as I was reading the question. So I talked a lot about your career path, and as we all know, who really has a career path? Actually, it's a very kind of zigzaggy kind of thing, and probably the stage that you're all at, if you're still at uni or still kind of starting out, you won't necessarily have a clear, straight, linear path, and that's completely fine. So I guess what I'm really talking about with that sort of pathway is more around what is it that you think you would like to do, and how might your career support you to do that? So it might be in a number of different ways, and I completely appreciate that depending on the discipline that you're in, you won't have that kind of straight path. So yeah, I hope that answers the question there.
Thanks, Anna. What happens if you don't get into the university you put in your application?
I can speak to this. So that's okay. A lot of our applicants apply for multiple universities, and we actually encourage that. I wouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket. I would just have them be same but different. But we've also had scholars that receive the scholarship and then go, look, I'm actually sort of thinking about this direction now, and just having the conversation with us. So yes, please apply to multiple institutions. Just let us know if it changes direction. We're very happy to work with you on that if you are a scholar. So yes, please put your, we had a scholar in this round, didn't we, Anna, who actually got all 4 acceptances from the universities that she'd applied for. So you have great problems like that when you do. But yes, we do recommend please putting your hat in very many rings.
Yeah, and I might just add to that. Yeah, absolutely, 100%, Sarah. I think in the application, it's either first and second preference or first, second and third preference from memory. So yeah, please give more than one preference. But also, yeah, things change. So you will put some universities and a proposed program of study into your application, but we understand things change. So it may not end up that that's what you do. So quite often scholars during the selection process, so maybe September, October of say this year, scholars will then start applying to the universities for next year. So it's not even necessarily the case that you would have applied at the start of the application process, because it wouldn't be open. The other thing I would say is very, very unusual for John Monash scholars not to get into a university course somewhere. So they're very, very highly regarded. And we also help with references and things like that. So once you get to that stage of applying for universities, you can reach out to us and we'll write a letter just acknowledging, the quality of your application for that university.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anna. I'll jump in with the next one. What sources of top-up funding are available in addition to the $75,000 a year support to cover living and study expenses?
Do you want me, Sarah, to have a go at that one? I wish I had a list in my head. I don't. It's very sort of university specific and country specific. There are the one that springs to mind, I think it's Harvard. There's the Knox Scholarship, which provides quite a generous top-up. There are most universities will have a grants program. So if you're going to need top-up funding, you would be talking to the university. There's a couple of things that I would say there is that we do need you to prepare a budget of some sort for your application. So you do need to be thinking a little bit about the costs and what that might look like. It's not fancy, it's not complicated, but it is good to be thinking about how far you think the money's going to go and possibly considering other options as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. When discussing your application with a referee, what type of information would be useful for them to complete their portion of your application?
I think we had this, is that right?
Yeah, I can just touch on it again quickly. So yeah, basically just letting them know what you're also talking about within your application. So where you plan to go, what you plan to achieve, and why being a John Monash scholar would, elevate your career and be the perfect opportunity for you. And then also just getting them to talk about, what kind of worker you were when you were, connected to them, and how you'd be a suitable candidate to be a John Monash scholar. But just, yeah, letting them know sort of what your intentions are, maybe also educating them on what the John Monash scholarship is if they haven't heard of it, so that they get a better understanding of what type of opportunity they're putting you up for.
The other thing I'd add to that too, Sarah, is just addressing also the key selection criteria that's listed on our website. So just really taking a closer look at that and explaining to them what that criteria is and how they could potentially address that in your written letter. The next question as well is, what emphasis is placed on professional achievements? For example, someone straight out of an undergraduate degree is unlikely to have significant professional achievements compared to someone further into their career.
Yeah, I can answer this. Anna, I'm happy for you to follow me as well. So it is based off just kind of how you used your time, not about your age. We had a scholar in the last cohort who was fresh out of his undergrad degree, and what he wanted to learn and what he wanted to do, he just communicated really well and really aligned with the values of the John Monash Scholarship. And, you know, obviously trying his best and doing things within university, particularly maybe if you're a part of clubs, or we're doing internships or work experience. We will take, you know, how long you are into your career, you know, into consideration. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have this full bank. It is very much just about how you articulate your vision, not necessarily all the things you've achieved on paper. That's just for us to know that you're serious about what you do and that you will be, you know, model the principles that are required to be a John Monash scholar, whether that's in the community and at your institution that you study at. But yes, I would just say it's necessarily talking about things that you have done in your career that have been significant, not necessarily how much there are. Yeah, you know, when I was in my undergrad, the only thing I really did was intern and work experience in clubs. And that's a lot. You know, for my age, with the time that I had, balancing all that part-time with part-time work, that's an achievement within itself for someone at such a young age. So I think it's really about communicating what you achieved to date and articulating what you envision for your future. If you've got this whole career ahead of you, you can really showcase and emphasize your ideas and your potential and your motivations. Anna, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, no, that's spot on, Sarah. Yeah, look, I think it sort of gets to the next question as well, but I think you said, Sarah, at one point, yeah, it's not so much a long list that we're after. So one of the things to keep in mind when you're putting together any application is think about your reader. Think about the fact that they've probably read 20 other applications before they hit yours. And what is it that's going to make yours stand out? So you want to show, yeah, that you've done these things in support of your vision or in support of your application. But it's about sort of think a little bit about, yeah, what's the, you know, what's the foreground thing? What's the shape of the application? What's your story? So that really gets to, yeah, the next question. So list any publications or exhibition, which is, yeah, list them all. But I think then if you're going to list them, then you don't kind of list them in your personal statement. So think about what is it that you're wanting to project in your personal statement. And yes, in answer to that next question. So the question is, for the question asking to list any publications or exhibitions, would it be appropriate to list conference, panel presentations and other public facing multimedia work too? The answer is yes to that. But again, think about the sort of, yeah, how it supports your application, your vision for the scholarship.
I've got a couple of questions here on referee, so I might just ask both of them at the same time. If you've been out of uni for 4 years, should you get a professional referee as one of them? And the other one is it encouraged to have a mix of referees, such as personal reference, professional and academic, or is it okay to have an example of all academic referees?
Yeah, we can both answer this one. I think it's just whoever's the most relevant to what you've been doing as of late. So the one of, you know, if you've been at uni for 4 years, I think it's very suitable that you would have at least one academic referee, just so that you can talk to things that you've been doing recently and who you are today. Of course, it'd be great to have a mix. I think, you know, the more diverse, the more it can speak to different areas that you specialize in. But however, you know, if you've been mainly studying for 4 years, say you've been doing a PhD and all of your energy has been going into that, then it's completely fine to have 3 academic references. I think it's just about ensuring that all the needs that speak to your character and your skill set and your knowledge are met through the candidates that you choose as your referees. Anna, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say we've had both. We've had some that would have one of each, and then we've had some that are all academic. So it really depends on the relevance, and that's it. So
following on from that, we've also got a question which is kind of the flip side of that. If you've been outside of university for a while, is it okay to have more professional referees rather than academic?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, just talking to your skill set. So if you haven't been to university in 10 years, I wouldn't go tapping an academic on the shoulder that doesn't know you anymore. I'd really be trying to look for people that can really vouch for, again, who you are today, what you've learned, how far you've come. And it doesn't really matter, what that background is, just as long as they've worked with you and they're an industry professional, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. I have an applicant here that's from a regional university without any alumni or prior exposure to General Sir John Monash Foundation's programs. Do we have any tips for seeking support and guidance for the application process that you could share to help others in similar situations?
That's a good question. I think this is a good start. This is a great start, just being at this webinar. And in answer to the next question, just to say that the second webinar in the series will be a sort of deeper dive into the application. So that will be helpful for you. I think what you can do also is approach your university, because even if they don't have knowledge of the John Monash scholarship per se, most universities will have a team of people who look after external scholarships and would be able to give you some advice and support. Sarah, did you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, and you can always come to us.
Yeah,
here's our contact details. Check out our website, listen to our podcast, newsletter, social media. You'll learn a lot from our scholars, the stories that we tell, and feel free to drop us any questions that you may have, because we're very happy to help you along your journey.
Wonderful. Thank you. The other question I have here is executive leadership diplomas / programs and MBAs, are they eligible to apply for the scholarship funding to support study?
That's an interesting question. So certainly MBA is a standard postgraduate degree. An executive diploma, for example, we may not look at that, because I guess the other thing to think about is the minimum that you can go for is 1 year. So, something like that might be more in the kind of, shorter period of study. So definitely a professional masters, absolutely. MBA, Master of Public Policy, that kind of thing. But you might want to drop us a line if you've got something specific in mind, and we can help you individually with that one.
Yeah, but I would say primarily masters or PhDs, and they can be sort of anywhere within that realm, but not necessarily short courses or programs, unfortunately.
Thank you. If you get into Harvard, but it wasn't your suggested university, could you still get into the Harvard-specific John Monash scholarship?
Yes, you can. So as things change, potentially your name scholarship can also change. We actually had that happen this year. So we had 3 or 4, scholars that got accepted into Harvard. And we originally didn't think we were going to have any. So then we changed it. So that's completely fine. And that sort of comes after you understand where you're going and that you've been awarded. That's a conversation that we'll have with you down the line to ensure that you're matched with an appropriate supporter that's relevant to your values and also the work that you'll be doing.
Thank you, Sarah. In regards to the topic of changing universities, is it acceptable to create our applications specifically directed towards one university?
Yeah, look, I think that's a really good question. In a sense, that's kind of what we're saying you should be doing. which is you want to be able to argue the merits of your chosen institution and your chosen course. You need to create a compelling argument as to why that course at that university is the right one for you. So yes, I would say is the answer. However, what I would also encourage you to think about is in your mind as you're planning your statement, for example, the foremost kind of thought would be not so much that's the university and the course I want to do. Your uppermost in your thinking should be, what is it that I want to do in terms of my career and my future, and how is that particular university and that program going to help me? So the answer is yes, but just with a slight sort of tweak in how you think about it. So I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Anna. Is there a suggested structure for the budget component of the application?
That's a good question. I'd have to go back to the Sarah, over to you.
During the application, it's supposed to be, very straightforward, really just outlining at a high level what you will need to allocate your money to. It's designed within the application to be a guide for you if you're successful. So I would just be thinking about it as, right, if I was doing this and I was spending my money, how do I outline where I need to put it? That's really what the main objective is for it, so that we understand that how you'll be funding your studies, and that you'll be financially secure and not have too many hiccups along the way. So no is the answer to that question. I would just do it as if you are creating a budget for yourself to use, and that you address as many elements as you can in that. So whether it be as high as institutional fees, or if it's food that you'll need each week, it's really up to you and how you decide it's the most valuable to outline what you really need to be budgeting for.
Thanks, Sarah. I've got a question here asking if you can hold both the Knox and John Monash scholarship, which you can, is the short answer, and we have had scholars in the past that have held both. So I'll just quickly jump on to the next one, just in relation to the postgraduate study proposal again. Will we need to provide a partially/fully formed plan about what we want to write about in our postgraduate degrees, or can this be more of a vague idea?
Wow, that's an interesting question. The answer is no. It's really impressive that you'd be thinking like that, but it's more just, I want to do a PhD in this particular topic because I think it's going to help me to do this kind of work. So no, we wouldn't be expecting you to have even a sort of a broad notion of a thesis topic for the application. That's not what we expect at all.
Thanks, Anna. I do have a question here on whether John Monash scholarships preclude you from getting other scholarships, for example, Fulbright. I can only really speak to what General Sir John Monash Foundation. It would be best to actually check in with each actual institution and foundation as to whether there's any restrictions, because it can vary from year to year. So it's really great to check in with the finer details of applying for other scholarships if you're looking at both. It's always a really good idea to disclose if you are applying for multiple scholarships in your application, in the interest of full disclosure as well. I'll just move on to the next one. Are postdocs eligible for the scholarship?
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. What level of detail is expected or sought for in the proposed budget, which we've kind of already covered, so I might just skip over that one. Are you allowed to help your referee write their reference, or are there strict requirements against this?
Anna?
I
don't think you're supposed to do that.
No.
It will say, within the criteria of what you need to do in the referee section, how to approach it. If you have any questions though, just ask us, but it is like any other reference. If you're applying for a job, they kind of have to do it on their own. You can definitely let them know, like we mentioned earlier, what your goals are with the scholarship, what the scholarship is, but I wouldn't necessarily be holding their hand along the way, because they'll need to submit it themselves anyway, and have, sign off on it as their own words. So I would discuss and have a conversation with them prior, but I would leave it in their capable hands to give you a very lovely reference.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely agree.
Yeah, thank you. If your vision aligns better with expertise of community referees, should they be prioritised over your professional referees from your 9 to 5?
Sure. If you think they're more suitable to talk about, your vision and your goals and motivations, then I think it's really up to you to be the judge on that, and get the referees that you think can really truly speak to your application the best. So like we mentioned, there really isn't any criteria. You just need 3 of them. So yeah.
Yeah, I would just add to that, I guess, going back to the selection criteria, that you just need to be sure that all of your referees are able to sort of speak to those key selection criteria of, excellence, leadership, and, your vision, your citizenship as well. So yeah, that's the key thing there.
Thank you, Anna. For extracurricular activities and/or hobbies, would you consider internships and volunteering to come under this?
Yes. In all applications you do, sing them loud and proud. They are extracurricular activities, whether it's sport, reading every single day, joining clubs, interning for companies. That's all an extracurricular activity. Everything that you do that goes above and beyond your stock standard requirements in your job, essentially.
Thanks, Sarah. Is there a preferred style for the CV, academic, industry, or creative, or other?
No, I don't think so. I think we just want clarity. Yeah, so that's probably the criteria we're looking for.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. If you're considering to apply for a PhD program, do you need to already have specific supervisors in mind for who you'd like to work with?
Sarah, do you want to take that, or I'm happy to?
I mean, yeah, we can take it together. Not necessarily to be successful in the application, but I mean, sure, if you're applying for universities, just because if you get the John Monash scholarship and you don't have, the essential requirements that you need for what you want to actually do, then there's a bit of a, I guess, area that you'll need to sort out. So you'd essentially like to have that side of things equally as taken care of as the actual scholarship, because ideally what you want is to kind of have both come hand in hand, like, yep, I've got the scholarship, and yes, I've gotten into this university, I've got my supervisor ready, I know when I want to fly over, this is the plan. So you kind of actually need to be working at them kind of in the background together. That's what a lot of our scholars are doing. It may make them pull their hair out, but they are really determined to become successful scholars and students in the universities that they've applied for. So it's kind of a healthy balance. But again, we're not going to, if you are successful at getting the scholarship and you don't have a supervisor, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have anything to do with the scholarship per se. You might just have to change what you end up doing if you don't get a supervisor, and then you'll have to come and have a chat to us about that. So yes, I highly recommend doing that in the background on top of applying to be a John Monash scholar.
Thanks, Sarah. If you're unsuccessful, can you apply again the next year? And I might actually just answer that one myself. The answer is yes, absolutely. Please, we do encourage you to. There'll be scholars that were successful, even this year, that may have applied multiple times. So it sometimes takes more than one go. So keep persisting. If it's something that you're really wanting to do in your future, please continue to try down that path. So I would strongly encourage, if you don't at first succeed, to try again.
So I think we all wanted to answer that. We're so excited about that question.
I was.
Because we do, I mean, it's so true. And one of our scholars this year was actually someone who applied 10 years ago and initially and wasn't successful. But the other thing that happens is if you get to the final, particularly if you get to the final round of selection, but, no matter where you land in the selection process, You can come back to us for discussion and feedback and support, and that can be really helpful. But this particular person, 10 years ago, applied, wasn't successful, was told she wasn't quite ready. And she's had 10 years of being out there working and doing really interesting work, and come back and then sort of brought all of that work into her application this year. She's a human rights lawyer, and lo and behold, she's won a scholarship. So absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. Would you want the budget in Australian dollars, or could you have it in the currency of the country that you're going to, for example, US dollars?
Australian dollars make sense, I think, in terms of the value of the scholarship being in Australian dollars.
Yeah. Thank you. Can extracurriculars from universities be included under extracurriculars if you have recently since graduated?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So do note them down. If they are activities that support your application, please include them.
Yeah. Thanks, Anna. Acknowledging that the scholarship provides funding for up to 3 years, is it fine if our proposed program is a 5-year expected or 7-year typical program?
Yes, and we can both answer this. It just essentially means that we won't be covering those last 2 or 3 or 4 years. So that element of funding, you'll need to explain to us what your plan is with that, so that we can feel comfortable in providing you with the support for the first half. And I might get you to talk about that. This is actually happening with a current scholar, I believe.
Yeah. Look, it's a really tough one. And I think, that's part of the reason why we do want you to do a budget. But we need, if that is the case, it's likely that we will have a conversation with you about, how do you think you're going to support yourself? So you've got this 3-year scholarship, and your PhD is 4 or 5 years. So we would want to have a really serious conversation with you about what your plans are for supporting yourself for those following 2 years. So quite often a number of universities, PhDs, will be invited to paid employment in the university. There'll be studentships and other bursaries as well. But it's a good question, and you would need to be thinking about it, and we would also be wanting to talk to you about it, because when all's said and done, our role is, yes, it's to select wonderful scholars, but it's also to look after you. So the pastoral care ethos at John Monash is really, really strong, and that just comes from a place of caring. So we would be calling you to have a conversation, not to kind of tell you off about your budget, but to say, hey, have you thought about how you're going to support yourself? Because we're really concerned. You need to know, what that financial support is going to look like for yourself.
Thanks, Anna. This one's in relation to the selections process. Who is the audience who are judging our applications? For example, academics in our specific field of study, or government professionals, etc.
I might take that one as well. So I'll go into a little bit more depth about the selection process, if this is helpful. So the first round of selection is a process whereby we have a large group of expert online reviewers, and they all read a number of applications, and every application gets read at least by 3 different people. So those people are typically, yes, academic experts. They are leaders in business. They are also, some of them will be scholars who are academic experts, many of them, by the time they've come back. They are people in government, a whole range of fields. So we broadly try and match your application with the discipline, broadly speaking, but obviously you would understand that we can't match specifically. But in a sense, that doesn't matter, because, as I keep saying, we're looking for those other qualities and the case that you make about your citizenship and your leadership. When we go to first round panels and second round panels, so that's the round, the next stages of selection, these are typically CEOs, they're people in government, they're very, very, very senior panels, very senior experienced academics, that type of person. So they're pretty high level. And again, we get on each interview panel, we get a range of disciplines covered, so that there will be likely to be someone, broadly speaking, from your discipline. Sarah, did you want to add anything?
No, I think that answered it well.
Yeah, thank you. I just had the question, is there a database that we can use to find alumni in our field / from our university? Someone's kindly already posted in our chat the link there. It is available on our website in terms of scholars in past years. It's really great to sign up for our Monash Minds newsletter, because you quite often will see news about our scholars and what they're actually achieving out in their respective industries. So that's another great opportunity to see what our scholars are currently doing. I've got time for one last question. Is there a need to justify why we are considering postgraduate study abroad, or does it suffice to explain why your chosen course and institution is best for you?
I would say no, not really. It's kind of would be labouring the point in a way to sort of talk about why you wanting to study overseas. I mean, that's a given in a way. So I wouldn't be paying too much attention to that. However, I would be saying then that you need to think about your institution and your destination, your country, that country that you're hoping to study at. Yes, you would be wanting to explain why it's that institution in that country, but not that kind of, not so much explaining why you want to study overseas for postgrad. You wouldn't need to do that in that sort of general sense. Sarah, am I making sense? Would you like to?
No, that sounds perfect. Yeah, I guess it would be really focusing on just like why that specific institution. I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, within your personal statement as to why you want to be a John Monash scholar, it might be suitable to say, you know, why the abroad and international knowledge would benefit your career. But in terms of like justifying the institution itself, you don't need to explain what, you know, why it's abroad, because we're only looking for candidates who are interested in going abroad. So yeah, I mean, it could be worth mentioning in your personal statement, like you know, what I've done and achieved in Australia, I would like to, you know, amplify by doing X, Y, Z, and, you know, studying at Oxford and understanding how it works in London so that I can bring it back to Australia. Because at the beginning we did say we're fostering our scholars to come back and be leaders shaping Australia's future and providing solutions to the greatest global challenges that we face today. So explaining why you will find those solutions potentially going abroad could be a bit of a benefactor, because then you've taken some serious consideration as to, you know, making this commitment, because we do want, you know, you to articulate throughout the application that it is a big commitment and decision, and it's something that you're really passionate about doing. So in that sense, it could be relevant.
Wonderful, thank you. I do have one last question that snuck through, but I may actually have to reply to you on email there. I'll just jot that down, Chantel, just in the interest of timing, because we've gone a little bit over time already this evening, so I'm conscious of not holding everybody back. I'll actually reach out to you individually. So I would like to just reiterate that we will circulate this recording following on from this evening. But if you do have any further questions, please send them through to admin@johnmonash.com. I've also popped that in the chat there, but feel free to have a look on our website as well. You've got all of our contact details up there, as long as also along with any communication channels and further information. You've got all of the details on Monash Minds and all of the important timing and dates and the details about further upcoming webinars. But I'll hand it back to you, Anna, to close out. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Zana and Sarah, for that contribution. That's great. And thank you so much to all of you for coming. Please put in an application. We'd love to see your application. Don't feel intimidated by some of the things we've said, because really, you know, we're interested in the whole person when it comes down to it. So, and get in touch if you've got any questions. We'd love to give you further advice and information if you need it. Okay, so we'll say goodbye. Have a great night, everyone, wherever you are, and we'll hear from you hopefully.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Bye.